What is up, everybody? Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, giving you commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Before I get started, I want to say welcome to all the new viewers, all the viewers of the past. Thank you for your subscription and for your views. Without further ado, let's get started with a preview of last night's NXT Takeover in your house. First of all, I gotta say, we started the match off. We kicked off the show with Bronson Reed and MSK, one of my favorite NXT tag teams, going up against Escobar and two of his allies. And of course, it was an amazing tag team match. And keep in mind, this is NXT, and NXT never disappoints. And it always has a highlight to their match. Every match has a highlight. And dare I say, every match has more than one highlight. And we saw several highlights with this one. One of my favorite highlights, however, came at the end when all members of each team, with the exception of Escobar, were doing over-the-top dives across to their foes. That was one of my favorite moments. But what ended it all was when Bronson Reed went through the middle rope to dive on to everyone, taking everyone down. That was amazing. The biggest highlight, however, came when Escobar took the North American Championship and held it in his hands and looked into the camera. Of course, keep in mind, it's a six-man tag, and all titles were up for grabs, which kind of gave me the vibe of what Shawn Michaels and Diesel went through against Yokozuna and the late Owen Hart at an In Your House pay-per-view many years ago. And I have been checking out a lot of those In Your House pay-per-views, gearing up for last night. It was very entertaining, very fun to watch, and I'm going to pull in some of my favorite moments from the past. But either way, as far as last night was concerned, we had Bronson Reed capitalize everything, and it got much better when Escobar looked into the camera and took his eyes off the prize. Now keep in mind, all titles are up for grabs, winner take all. And so, because Escobar took his eyes off the prize, he was caught off guard as Bronson Reed rammed into him and tackled him, pushing him through one of the screens and barricades. It's one of those OMG-like moves that you play on your video games when you spear somebody through a barricade in your WWE games. And that's what happened in that. Bronson Reed rammed Escobar through the barricade and the steel pad and fencing, taking him down, leaving MSK to finish off the other allies of Escobar for the win. But it was capitalized with Bronson coming back after crushing Escobar to go against his partners, flying off the top rope and squashing him. Legend has it that they needed a spatula to get him up after Bronson pinned him for the 1-2-3. MSK, my favorite tag team, and Bronson win the match. Moving on, I have to also say, I forgot what his name was, but the original host of WWE In Your House was there, and he still looks just almost like he's hardly ever aged, in my personal opinion. He's got a little gray, but he looked like he hadn't aged too much, and it's great to see him at an In Your House pay-per-view. It is awesome. Of course, that's not the only couple of things we had. We had Mercedes Martinez against Xia Li. And I must say, I'm going to say this right now. Xia Li was getting revenge for an event that took place at the Mae Young Classic, where Xia Li extended her hand to Martinez, and Martinez shook hands and then took that same hand and dusted her hand on her right bottom cheek. That was cold. So Xia Li has been wanting revenge for that ever since she went, or underwent rather, this change, this dark change that has made her more aggressive and more unstoppable. And one thing you got to give credit to about NXT is they're always trying to make each other better. They're not throwing people away. They're not releasing stars that are good like Braun Strowman, Alistair, and all these other guys. Mark Henry said, rumorly, that Braun Strowman could be coming to AEW. AEW is stealing everybody. It's going to be the Friday Night Wars. It's going to be the Monday Night Wars, except on Fridays. Because AEW comes on the same night as WWE SmackDown. Once it was the Wednesday Night Wars, now it's Friday Night Wars. We are in trouble, WWE. AEW is great too, but WWE is in trouble. Just kidding. But either way, NXT is doing their best to make their stars stay relevant, whether it be by making certain heel turns or just giving them special pushes. They are doing what they can to make their superstars stay relevant. Taking advice from The Undertaker about never growing stale. Very important. However, to the match, Xia Li was able to get a victory after coming off very aggressive against Mercedes Martinez, who is an inch and a half taller than Xia. Let's keep that in mind. Also, after the match, Xia wanted to continue to do more damage with the chair, but thankfully Martinez defended herself and started smashing her and her associate with the chair. Things started to get a little eerie in the arena, and the creepy, I forgot what her name is, the creepy woman on the throne, stood up. But she looks to me, and I'm not trying to disrespect Chinese culture. I don't think I shouldn't say that. All right. Well, she is a villain, so I will say she has a very dark vibe to her, the other villain that's sitting on the throne. So Martinez prepared to approach her, which me personally I thought was a bit of a bad idea from an entertainment standpoint, saying, "You want some biscuit? Let's go." And of course, she grabbed her by the throat like this, and apparently that choke feels like a Star Wars force choke. Thankfully, she tried to defend herself, but was unsuccessful. I will just say it like this. Xia Li and her alliance, Kai and Tai, y'all were just silly evil. These guys here, that's evil for real. Evil. Indeed. Kai and Tai ain't got nothing on this. Moving on also, Raquel Gonzalez was able to defend her championship successfully against Ember Moon, who was very competitive that night. And also, we saw Shotzi Blackheart, who was attacked a couple of weeks earlier by both Dakota Kai and Raquel, the tall wrestler who's the champion now. Raquel and her partner Dakota attacked her viciously, Shotzi Blackheart I'm speaking of. Thankfully, Shotzi was able to return, but the match did not end. The issues did not end with Raquel defeating Ember Moon. Right before the Fatal 5-Way, as Johnny Gargano was entering the ring for his match, you could see chaos going off against Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, and of course Raquel and Dakota Kai, which met at the end, so much to the point that at the end of the show, William Regal said, "Things are way too chaotic and it's time for change." But this is not the first time WWE has seen chaos. Look back at 2011 when Triple H was running Monday Night Raw. Things were pretty chaotic then, so who knows. But also, Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight for the $1 million championship. Before I get into the $1 million championship, I gotta say something. I have been gearing up for In Your House, and I have seen some matches in the early years of In Your House where Ted DiBiase was managing Psycho Sid. In one In Your House pay per view, particularly, Psycho Sid went one on one with Henry Goodwin, who played the role as the everyday farm man. And of course, he always came with some gross stuff in his farm bucket. And whether it be rotten food or just muddy stuff, he always came with some stuff and poured it on people. And he had made a habit of pouring things on Ted DiBiase. And keep in mind, Ted DiBiase always dresses nicely and things like that. So, despite losing one of those times at that In Your House pay per view against Psycho Sid, somehow Henry Gooden found a way to splash somebody with some dirty stuff. And Ted DiBiase got it again. And it was funny. But anybody that knows Ted DiBiase, that knows about Ted DiBiase's personal stories and personal experiences due to social media, knows that Ted DiBiase is a born again Christian and a born again believer. And in my humor, I can't help but say to myself, this was right around 95. And I believe he started to come to himself as being a real believer right around 96 or 97, because he had left WWE for WCW partly because he was offended by Stone Cold Steve Austin during the Austin 316 thing. He thought that the Austin 316 mocks God. He mocks God. He mocks God. Do you get that reference? Let me know if you do. I'm going to let you guys see if you can get that. But either way, Ted DiBiase got splashed, and I couldn't help but say to myself, this is God's way of saying, that's for you forgetting me all those years and all the promises you made to stick with me. And now that you have become arrogant and full of yourself, I'm going to humble you. But before I humble you through pain, well, God doesn't send pain, but before I allow life to humble you through pain, I'm going to allow a bunch of pranks to come upon you. Yes, God is a prankster. Ask Pharaoh. But either way, that was funny. But getting into the match between Mr. Grimes and LA Knight with Ted DiBiase on standby. It was an amazing ladder match, of course. I don't know if I would say it was one of my all-time favorites, but it was certainly a great ladder match. And to think that several months ago, WWE fans from NXT were chanting, "No one likes you," to Cameron Grimes. A year later, we're all chanting, "To the moon, to the moon." And unfortunately, Cameron Grimes could not go to the moon. I was really hoping he would win. But LA Knight took this one from a scripted standpoint. Both guys are very talented. But unfortunately, LA Knight took this one after launching Cameron Grimes off the ladder, causing him to fall out of the ring into the entrance ramp with ladders stacked on top. And so that's a hard fall, and to fall on a bunch of ladders hurts. So that was the end of that, and he should have took one of the announcers' advice, because when he had LA Knight down, he started shouting, "To the moon!" And the announcers were like, "Don't talk about it, be about it." In other words, don't taunt around, which we saw LA Knight do a lot of, which you never do. You never taunt around till after the fight. And Cameron Grimes learned that lesson the hard way. Last but not least, the fatal 5-way match. Man, there are no words. There are little words, I should say, to describe how amazing that match was. I could say, some of you will probably say that match was a lot better than the 5-way match at Extreme Rules. about 4 years ago between Wyatt, Roman, Balor, Samoa Joe, and I believe, was it Strowman? Let me see. No, it was Seth. Seth was the fifth guy in that match. But either way, I believe it's at Great Balls of Fire. No, it was at Extreme Rules. But either way, that it's not often we see five-way matches, but that one was one of the great ones. That'll be up there, probably on top of that particular five-way match at Extreme Rules 2017. But a couple of the highlights of that match were when Karrion, all these K's and stuff, took double suplex, I believe, both Pete Dunne and was it probably Gargano, but I know there was a double suplex that took place in that last night, and that was amazing. But the highlight came near the end when Karrion Kross came and put the sleeper on Kyle O'Reilly, who he said was his biggest threat. He put a sleeper on Kyle O'Reilly while Kyle O'Reilly had Adam Cole. Yes. Oh, yeah, it was Adam Cole. Adam Cole. Kyle O'Reilly had Adam Cole in a particular kind of leg lock. And, of course, Karrion came and capitalized by putting Kyle O'Reilly in a sleeper while Kylo had Adam Cole in his own lock. So that was interesting, and it was in that moment where Kyle O'Reilly went to sleep at the hands of Karrion Kross's sleeper hold, making Karrion Kross the winner and still the NXT champion. I guess he was right about one thing. He said, "You will have to prive this championship from my dead hands." And I think that's what it's going to take. Shelton Benjamin had a song many years ago called "Ain't No Stopping Me Now." And I don't think there's any stopping Karrion Kross. So folks, fall and pray. Well, that's all the time I got for you right now. I'll be back with more reviews, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Peace out.